Hello and welcome back to the 1874 show. It's time for a preview show today as Aston Villa head to Spurs on Sunday at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I'm your host, Dan Bardell, joined as ever by Dave Reed to preview the game. Don't forget the show is sponsored by Luke Roper, and if you want to get 20% off everything that Luke have to offer, just use the code TVV20 and you'll get 20% off. Dave, you're looking very rugged today, a bit dishevelled. I quite like it.
Dishevelled's I mean, rugged was quite good, and then it quickly went to dishevelled.
I gave both. I thought both were mini compliment. I just quite like it. I don't usually see you looking that way.
The off duty. This is off duty.
The dad
I
mode.
do need a shave. Yeah, probably. Yeah, more like
Dad
that.
mode. Yeah, Dave's at his in-laws today, but he's remembered to take his mic with him. Absolute scenes. Remembering to take his mic, taking his preview duties very, very seriously. I've literally just got back in, so it could be a bit of an all over the place match preview. It's half term in my house as well, so there is kids downstairs watching Netflix and whatnot. So I do hope that there's no issues with my internet. It's a lovely setting you've got there, Dave.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the well, it was the spare room, and it's now been converted into a dressing room by my wife's mum and dad. So,
a dressing room. You live in the high life when there's a dressing room in the house. Have you get ready yourself in the dressing room? And you're not
no. This is. I'm rarely allowed in here, so I just thought the lighting's good. I thought so. I'd come in here for this.
Yeah, I'm having that dressing room. Maybe one day I'll make it to the realms of being able to have a dressing room. Right, then it's Friday night, Dave. There's 58 people with us at the moment. I'm sure it will go up as we go through. 29 via X and 29 via YouTube at the moment. I would actually like that number to go up because I'm sure it's normally higher when we do the preview. So do get involved in the chat if you are watching via YouTube, and we'll try and involve you in the show as much as possible. Dave, Spurs away, been a happy hunting ground over the last few years. Unai Emery, of course, has won there twice already as Aston Villa manager. 3 draws and a win in Villa's last 4 Premier League games after the cup exit on a Wednesday and the rotation. This one feels quite a big one to me.
Yeah, I would agree. And Unai Emery has kind of played it down again today in his pre-match news conference, where he talked about 7 other contenders being more likely to reach the top 4 once again this season, and he included Tottenham as a team that is more likely to reach the top 4 than Aston Villa again this season.
Do you include Manchester United? Because I'm trying to do the maths here. I'm assuming he's putting Manchester United in there still.
I would assume so as well. I would assume so. I think he kind of frames it around the clubs who have the bigger resources. I would say that's usually how he's kind of framed it around since he's come to the club. So, I mean, yeah, Tottenham obviously had a fantastic start to the season last season, and then it tailed off a little bit towards the end, and it was almost both Villa and Tottenham were kind of limping towards the end of the season last season, and it was Villa that managed to secure Champions League football, and it was Tottenham who missed out. They've made a kind of a much worse start to the season this season than they did last, and feels like there might be a little bit, not necessarily pressure, but I think questions maybe around how Tottenham are playing, the manager's style, how he's going to get the most out of that group of players. So I'm not sure whether it's a good or a bad time, because Tottenham like to sweep teams aside once they've had a couple of bad results. But I think Villa will be looking at it as an opportunity to almost crank up those questions on Ange Postecoglou and Tottenham.
Yeah, from what I'm kind of remembering this season with absolutely nothing in front of me, it feels like they've been a good outfit at home and then not been so good away, and let games get away from them. Let obviously the Brighton game recently when they were 2-0 up, get away from them. Lost at Palace last week. To me, it feels like at home they're quite strong and they will be quite strong, but away, I don't want to use the phrase, but there's something a little bit Spursy about them.
Don't use that phrase. Yeah, potentially. Yeah. And I think certainly away from home, the game against Crystal Palace, I'm sure lots of people would have seen the post-match interview from Ange Postecoglou where he questioned his team's fight. And I think that usually when a manager questions his team's fight, it's not a great sign of the kind of mentality that his players have. But I don't know whether he's just trying to maybe poke the bear a little bit with his players. I think those players, most of them anyway, are experienced enough and have played at the top level for long enough to know how to get results away from home. I just think at the moment they're having a bit of a a sticky patch, new players that have come in, players that have changed positions a little bit this season, and they're going to go into this game with a significant injury as well, with Mickey van der Ven missing the game on Sunday.
Yeah, obviously Dragusin would come in. I would expect, obviously, a player they spent a fair bit of money on, but his third centre half for all intents and purposes since he's arrived. But he'll be looking forward to maybe a run of games now in the Tottenham back line. But Villa are obviously difficult opposition to come in a little bit cold to in terms of Premier League football. With Spurs, whenever I watch them, I don't know what it is, and I can't put my finger on it. I feel like there's something missing in the middle of the park. Sometimes at home they line up with a sitting midfielder, Bentancur, I think it was, for one game, and then have Kulusevski and Maddison playing either side. And I know recently Maddison got dragged at half time, and Sarr came on and they looked a little bit better, a bit more secure in that midfield. I'm not sure what they'll do against Villa, but I always just feel they're a midfielder short. Tottenham, there's something not quite right with any of the makeup of their midfield, in my opinion.
Well, when you boil it down, what you're kind of saying there, it feels like there's something missing, because usually there is something missing, because all the players that should be in midfield have thrown themselves forward into attacking areas. And then Tottenham are very vulnerable, or have been very vulnerable this season on transition. And that's where it really is quite stark, when they don't have an extra midfielder in there, or they've overcommitted in forward areas and then they've lost the ball. And teams attack them in wide areas, and the fullbacks are forward, and lots of rotations. But when you're boiling down what you're kind of saying there usually is a player missing from central midfield, because most of the players that Spurs are committed to attack, and then they struggle a little bit on transition and in defence as well. So I do think there is ways to get at Spurs, but I think this manager and this team feels like a bit of an issue for Unai Emery and Aston Villa last season. I know, obviously, Villa beat them at their place last year, but I think the game at Villa Park obviously didn't go to plan. That was a poor performance, and the manager, Emery, changed things up a little bit and decided to play three centre-backs, and obviously that didn't work. But then even at the game at Tottenham, he started with Matty Cash on the right-hand side, and then he got brought off at half-time, and Leon Bailey came on. So, yeah, it's a manager and a structure at Tottenham that have caused Villa issues over the last year or so. I wonder whether he'll try and do anything different this time on Sunday, or whether he'll kind of stick to what he thinks is the way that Villa play, and then we'll find out what Spurs end up doing.
Yeah, some technical gremlins appear to have entered the show, and we've got no producer today, so I'm kind of jack of all trades, producing and presenting. I've got to be honest, I don't really know what to do with Dave Reed's frozen face on the screen. We can still hear Dave, so that's really, really good. But Dave, can you see your unfortunate frozen face?
I mean, I look like I'm moving on mine, so that feels odd.
Let me just try and turn the camera off and turn it back on again and see what happens. Actually, what works in the IT world, but of course it hasn't worked on this occasion. Dave, I'm going to suggest you come out and then go back in, and I'll pad whilst we wait for you to come back, and I'll get some of the comments involved. Is that okay for you to do that, Dave? I mean, for audio listeners, this is a terrible experience. It's not a great experience for the visual listeners, for the visual watchers either. Dave's gone. Right, let's get a few of the comments involved while we wait to see if Dave's frozen picture comes back unfrozen. We've got CC watching from Canada. Hello, CC. A global show today, because I've seen someone from America as well, but I've lost that comment now. But Greg Evans would certainly be proud of it. Global Greg Evans, seeing people from all over the place watching the show. And there's Dave Reed back, movement again,
moving.
Still looking slightly dishevelled, but he's back and he's moving again. So the viewer experience has been optimised now. Let's talk about Villa a little bit. There's a fefew comments talking about Villa's midfield makeup, Dave. In my mind, team selection-wise, there's probably only two areas that are up for debate. I won't start with the midfield. I'll start with the defence. Will it be the same back four as last week against Bournemouth, or will Diego Carlos come back into the side and Konsa go to right back because we're playing against what Emery would perceive as top 6, top 7 opposition?
I suspect it will be Diego Carlos coming back in, and Konsa moved over to right back. That's my hunch, simply because I think Villa have struggled, particularly with that left-hand side when we've played Tottenham. I think Destiny Udogie causes issues, the rotations between him and Maddison. And I think there might even be a case again to start with, for instance, a Matty Cash on the right-hand side. You never know. I think, that might feel a little bit too maybe defensive-minded from
It does to me.
Unai Emery.
You know why it would
Um,
feel too defensive for me? Because I think McGinn can do an equal defensive job from the right-hand side and offer more in terms of dropping into attacking position. That would just be my feeling on it.
Yeah, maybe potentially McGinn's the answer then on that right-hand side. Obviously, he's very tactically aware as well. And Unai Emery might look at the game at Tottenham last season where he did have to hook Matty Cash at half-time because we were really struggling down that right-hand side. But I understood why he started with Cash because, you'll end up with Solanke, Maddison, Udogie, everyone over the kind of front line of Villa, and they try and outnumber you with 5 in the attacking final line with up against 4 defenders essentially. So I think that's kind of why he did it. And I just wonder maybe McGinn might be the option on that right hand side again.
I mean, in fairness, there wasn't much. I don't think there was much wrong with that Bournemouth performance at all from that 11. And there is similarities between Bournemouth and Tottenham, although I think Bournemouth probably played in a slightly different way to what they would normally do in terms of transition. They more picked their moments and did sit in when they needed to, and Spurs won't do that at all. But I didn't think there was much wrong with that Bournemouth performance, and the same 11 wouldn't massively surprise me. Shane O'Neill in the chat is speculating that we might see Kamara and Onana start together with Yuri more advanced, and I assume that would lead to Rodgers playing on the left-hand side number 10 role. Can you see that? For me, Kamara's done 90 on Wednesday. It feels unlikely that he'll play this one from the start.
Yeah, feels a little bit too early for 2 starts in a week for Kamara. And also, I think you have to consider that Tielemans has been so good
he's brilliant
in central midfield. And when he's been your best player, do you then consider moving the player that's been in, he's definitely in the top 3 in terms of form for Aston Villa this season? Do you consider moving that player when he's been so effective in the middle of the park? So, maybe it's something that would be considered a little bit further down the line this season. But right now, I think it probably isn't one to think about. I think it will be Tielemans and Onana.
I think you'll definitely see Tielemans move forward into a number 10 role at times this season. But the difference between this season and last season, because he did it quite a lot last season, is just how good he's been in the 6 role. But I do think for certain games you might see that with Rodgers on the left. I certainly think that's an option moving forward for Villa. Just wanted to give Commodore Turtle a shout out. He's howdy from the States, gentlemen. Going to be watching the game real early in the morning over here on Sunday whilst at work. So I do like that we get people watching from all over the place. If you are watching from a far away place, do let us know in the chat. Also, a little shout out to Adam Bates, who for some reason is watching the show but couldn't produce the show. I don't really understand that. Well, how come you can watch the show, Adam, but not produce? That makes no sense to me.
You out.
I mean, I've been thrown into all kinds of situations at the moment, Dave. I've said that they're the only 2 kind of things we can speculate about in terms of team selection. Do you think there's anything else? Because obviously Watkins is going to play, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I think it will be Watkins. Duran obviously scored in the week and he's doing everything possible. But I just think for this, and I have said before that I think they will start together at some point, but I just don't think it's going to be this Sunday. It will be Watkins up front, and it will be Rodgers alongside him, and then it's the makeup of the midfield that you can probably question whether it's Bailey on the right or McGinn, and then the rest of the team almost kind of picks itself at the moment. And I think those are the players that are trusted a little bit from the start. I'm unsure whether any of the players that played in midweek, I'm not sure whether the manager will have learned a whole lot. No. I think he still trusts those players. I don't think any of the players would have lost his trust in the week. So I think all of those players that played in midweek will have something to say this season and will be playing a part. It's just unfortunate that it ended up the way it did in midweek.
I'll tell you what would have been interesting. We know that Barkley missed the game through injury because I think he would have started instead of McGinn. I think we can definitely say that. He won't be available on the bench, which is actually, a huge blow, not having Barkley available to bring on, because he has come on and influenced games a lot this season. There's been a few away games as well where he's come and really settled Villa down in the second half. So it's a blow not to be able to bring Barkley on. I think, Onana won't know what to do, coming off at half time, because he comes off at half time so often. It would have been interesting had Barkley been fit. That would have been everyone fit, and there would have been a big name not on the bench, and it would have been quite interesting to see who that was. But I guess that's gone away now with Barkley's injury.
Yeah, and it is a shame for Barkley, because I think he offers something where coming on in matches, he can offer a little bit of control. I think he's been really good at. He's obviously taken on board lots of things that Unai Emery has been teaching him about how he likes to play football, and I think he has taken on what he has said quite quickly. And I think when he's come on, he's shown that level of control when perhaps Villa have needed to get hold of the ball for a little bit, or they've needed to settle down a little bit if the game's becoming more like a basketball match, which we know that the manager doesn't like. So I think he has offered that control when he's come on. So really unfortunate that he's injured.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting though, because if the team goes the way that we've kind of said it would, even though Barkley's not going to be on the bench and he is a great option, you've still got Bailey, you've still got John Duran, you've still got other players to come on and make an impact, haven't you?
Yeah, and I think this is going to be a really important game for those players that are coming on, because if things transpire the way we possibly think and Bailey starts from the bench, he could be really important in the latter stages of games when obviously we're not sure about what the game state's going to be when they come on, but up against a Spurs defence that is going to be missing Mickey van der Ven, that are going to be committing players forward. Villa will have chances in this game, and they will have chances on transition. And I think certainly Bailey is one that thrives on those situations when he can shape up a defender 1v1. So I think it's going to be really important that the players that come off the bench on Sunday.
If you had to pick out one key man for Tottenham, who would you pick? I've got mine in mind, but who would you go? And hopefully we don't choose the same player.
I mean, not necessarily a key man, because I feel like he's gone under the radar a little bit. But I think Dejan Kulusevski is someone that
You're going
to pick him.
And I think he's on the microphone.
I mean, I'm interested in him because his role is slightly evolved a little bit for Tottenham, because they signed him, I think, as a kind of out and out winger and someone who's going to play on the right hand side, cut in on his left foot and create crossing opportunities or chances to shoot himself. And his role has evolved a little bit, where he's moved inside and he's now part of the midfield and he's a number 8 and he picks the ball up in central areas, and Tottenham like to get the ball through and progress through central areas, and then their wide players can make an impact in the final third. So I think, Kulusevski is one for me, because I think he's also one that can rotate positions with whoever plays on the right-hand side, whether that's Brennan Johnson or somebody else. So there's that added rotation in there where he'll start centrally, move out wide, double up on the Villa left back, which is probably going to be Luca Dean.
Yeah.
And or, he can swap with Johnson, and Johnson can come and play centrally and Kulusevski can go and play wide. And again, that's going to be the communication then between Villa at the back as to who's picking up who and whether they swap players that they're picking up.
Yeah, Son, I think, will be back as well when he's missed games with injury recently. And I'm slightly worried about, because I do think he's a great player and I don't really feel like he's been massively in the goals, which does concern me, is Solanke. I think he's doing a lot of what Kane kind of did in the dropping deep. He's not got the distribution that Kane's got, but he's dropping deeper, kind of playing a different role at Spurs than he did at Bournemouth, where he scored so many goals last season.
Yeah, and I think that's I mean, I would say I was quite surprised by that, because I thought he would be playing a similar role to he played at Bournemouth, where he would be in that penalty box and be the penalty box striker. And it does seem that this season he's coming deep and allowing the runners to fly in behind opposition defences. So I think, personally, I think he's probably better as a penalty box striker. I mean, there's no doubt what he gives you off the ball. I think he's top of the charts for pressures and regains in the final third, and
he's right there
turnovers leading to shots. He is right up there. He's one of the best pressing strikers in the Premier League, and I think he is slightly better higher up the pitch. But you're right, his role is one at the moment where he is tending to drop deep and get involved in build up and letting people run in behind. So again, it's another one where Villa are either going to have one of the centre backs follow him, and when he drops deep, a centre back goes with him, or he's one that's passed on to a central midfielder. It's one of those teams that are really difficult to defend against Tottenham.
I do wonder, because of the physical aspect of Solanke's game, I do wonder whether that does point to Diego Carlos playing. I do think he probably would do that.
I mean, Diego Carlos's strengths are kind of well known. If he thinks that Villa need an extra physical presence, whether that's in his own box or the opposition box, then Diego Carlos comes in usually. And when they need a little bit of extra help defensively, but also rest defence when Villa are trying to build up in the 3, Konsa, Carlos, and Torres are pretty solid as a kind of conservative three when Villa are building up. So, I mean, the strengths of Carlos are kind of well versed. I like him. He's obviously had difficult moments, but I think when he's played in the right atmosphere and he's played where he's not going to get tied up in defending wide areas and in 1v1 battles when a player's running at him. Don't mind a physical 1v1, but when it's a player running at him, we know that's not his strength. So that's why he's tended to be used away from home usually, because Villa are a little bit more conservative.
Stereotypically as well, if we're classing Spurs as a big team, these are the games that Diego's done well in. So again, I think that probably points to him starting, because that it feels to me the better the opposition we play, the better he plays. He really steps up against good opposition. So again, I think that probably points to him starting. Got a few people complaining about the Villa website not being fit for purpose in the chat at the moment. I assume people are watching this and whilst trying to get tickets for the Juventus game. I mean, the website is not fit for purpose, and from a ticketing side of things, it doesn't surprise me one bit that that's going on at the moment. I've got Craig Francis as well, who's starting the weekend with a bit of Tamworth against Huddersfield, down the road from me, 10 minutes away from me. The Tamworth ground. I know a few people going to that tonight, including Adam Bates. That is why he's not producing, but he was watching. So instead of having a go at him for not producing, I should be praising him for adding to the viewing figures on his way to Tamworth, I guess, Dave. Let's finish them with our either hot take or freezing cold take. We are not very good at these, but we do, we try and go a bit niche with what we do on this show, Dave. We don't just do a simple score prediction or pick someone to score. We try and come up with something a little bit niche from the prediction perspective. I think we've only got one right between us all season, a few near misses from us, but we're not doing great. What's your hot/freezing cold take ahead of Spurs Villa?
I think Leon Bailey will come off the bench to score from outside the box.
Whoa, you could have just gone with Leon Bailey to score off the bench, but
would that have been good enough?
Yeah, you've had to add outside the box. So if he scores from 6 yards now, Dave, it's going to be a freezing cold take.
Null and void.
A freezing cold take from you. I was going to keep it very, very simple with just Ollie Watkins to score because he's got a good record away at Spurs, but it feels a bit too easy after what I've just said. So I'm going to go with a defender to score. Just a defender. Spurs weren't great at defending set pieces last season. Villa have got Austin McPhee. We might be playing three centre backs. I'll go for a defender to score. Pau Torres, of course, scored last year at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium as well. So I'll go with that. But yeah, that's our hot/probably freezing cold take for the game. Right then, Dave, what are you up to this weekend? Obviously, no Villa until Sunday. Any exciting plans? Obviously, with the in-laws.
Yes, I am until tomorrow. Then I'm going to visit the other parents, my parents.
Oh, coming to Birmingham and not telling me yet again. This is becoming a regular pattern now.
It's because I've got baby now, so I've got parenting to do.
But I could still see you with the baby. I'm quite busy on Sunday, in fairness, so actually it would have been. No, tomorrow you go into the.
Yeah, tomorrow afternoon will be.
To be fair, I've got a really busy weekend actually. So even if you had arranged to see me, I wouldn't have been able to do it. So
you've always got stuff on.
But maybe one day Dave will come back to Birmingham again and tell me, like he did the one time earlier on in the year when we went out for breakfast, which was lovely pre-baby.
That was nice.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully I'll be there sooner rather than later, as I told you pre-show.
Yeah, Dave Reid hoping Champions League. Dave Reid hoping to make the trip for the Juventus game. You are very, very Champions League based so far, your trips to Villa, Dave.
I know. Well, you've got to make it count, haven't you?
Yeah,
got to make it count.
Fair play. Right then, let's go. Thank you to those that have joined us from all over the globe in the live chat on YouTube. And thank you to those that joined us live on X. And maybe one person might be watching on Twitch. No one. On Twitch, 2 on Facebook as well. So thank you to everyone that's joined us live today. We do enjoy having the engagement and the interaction. If you're not watching live, and if you have watched live, then please do all the things that I bang on about every single week. Comment on YouTube, subscribe with your post notifications on, please. If you're watching this and you're not subscribed, please go and do that. Give the video a like as well. Let's try and get to 500 likes. If we don't get to 500 likes, then Villa will not win on Sunday. So it's in everyone's interest to hit the like button. If you're listening even via audio platforms, then please leave us a lovely review on Apple Podcasts. That would be brilliant. And on Spotify, if you could give us 5 stars and give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts as well, that would be brilliant. Thank you to Dave for joining me. Thank you to myself for presenting and producing. Have a great weekend. And as always, we'll be back on Monday and up the Villa.